Today, we will be discussing the CDC's newest COVID vaccine guidelines,
followed by a look at Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's Bombshell interview with Oprah Winfrey.
And finally, we're committed to bringing you the news, views, and info to go on this episode of the Report Roundtable Discussion. I'm Bree Slick.
I'm Amanda Mendoza.
I'm Jorge Flores.
And I'm Tristan Maglunog. As you can see, we are continuing to practice social distancing and are going to continue to conduct our episodes via Zoom for the foreseeable future. Although we cannot be together in person, we invite you all to continue to be part of the discussion. Follow us on our Twitter at The Report CSUF or on our Titan TV Instagram at Titan TV CSUF to keep in touch with us and view our new content.
Last Monday, the CDC and federal health officials released new guidances for those who are fully vaccinated.
When I say fully vaccinated, I mean people who are 2 weeks after their second dose of either the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines, or 2 weeks after a single dose of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
The recommendations state that vaccinated people may gather indoors with other vaccinated people without wearing a mask or social distancing. The CDC also outlines that those who are vaccinated may also gather with people who are considered low risk and may meet in small groups of unvaccinated people under certain circumstances. Finally, those who've received the vaccine may skip quarantine and testing if exposed, but it is suggested that they monitor their symptoms for 14 days, though evidence suggests that those who are vaccinated may not spread the COVID-19 virus. Scientists are still working hard to comprehend how long that protection lasts. Now, right now, it's about 90% of the population who has had one shot of the vaccine, and about 9% has had both of the vaccines and are fully covered. You know, the numbers are slowly going up with those who are vaccinated, and it's a really slow process, but we're definitely getting closer to some sort of normalcy per se. You know, those guidelines sound great and they're reassuring, you know, that the vaccine's working and they're keeping us safe, and more people are bound to gather. But I think the question remains, though, is, are these people who are gathering the ones that are actually low risk, and are they vaccinated, or are they not part of those groups? You know, Tristan, I do want to ask you this, since we were kind of talking about this earlier, is releasing these statements like these ones putting us like a step towards the right direction, or could it be hurting us more since it's so early in the vaccination process?
Bree, to answer your question, I personally believe that these steps, these guidelines, are definitely a step to a path of normalcy, as you just said earlier. When you take a look at these guidelines, people that are fully vaccinated, that's the goal, fully vaccinated, can congregate indoors in small gatherings without masks and social distancing. For you know, it actually feels kind of weird to think about that. Like, wow, we've been in this pandemic for about a year now, and now we're letting people without masks that are fully vaccinated come together. It is a little weird if you think about it, but it is a step into getting into that normal life. Now, the precautions depends on the conditions of those who are not vaccinated and the number of people gathering. So everything has to be small. You still have to wear masks, especially if there's a lot of people in public. You have to do all that. But the goal is to strive for herd immunity. Right now, as you said, only 9% of the population is vaccinated. But it's important to note that every day there's an average of around 60,000 new cases. That is immense.
You know, it's very important now that you are mentioning these kind of questions and the way that we're going to look in the future. I believe that this is more like a culture, wearing your face mask. And even though you're vaccinated, maybe you're going to still use the face mask every single time you're going to a grocery store, in public spaces. So in the future, it's more like a culture. That's what I think. Now, what happens with public spaces like the CSU? According with the CSUF, now we're going to have these fall 2021 in-person classes. But the question is, will CSUF require the vaccine in the future? That's a question that we also need to think about, because as we know, some of the grocery stores or businesses, they are requiring or at least motivating people, their employees, to take the vaccine. Now, in my opinion, I don't think the CSUF is going to require us to take the vaccine, but I really believe let's wait in the future what happens next and the results that we have taking, for example, Moderna, Pfizer, or even the Johnson & Johnson, and see the results, see the immunity that we have, the immunity. Now, I do believe that CSUF is going to encourage us to take the vaccine prior the fall 2021. But the question also is, what happens to people that are going to lie about it and they're going to still go in public spaces? What do you think, Amanda?
I was thinking about that last night, actually. To be honest, if people were acting this way before without their mask and before the CDC guidelines, I can't see them really changing their behaviors afterwards. So I have to disagree with you on the point that people will want to wear their mask after the pandemic. People will want to ensure that everything's extra clean and everything. And also, in regards to whether or not people will lie about whether or not they have a vaccine, I think that may become the norm here because anti-vaxxers or people who just don't feel confident may want to go out with their friends, may want to go back to school like CSUF. So to be honest, I don't really see much of a change in the culture. And what I'm also curious about is whether or not people will try and forge these documents that they had the vaccine. So I'm a little bit curious about what's going to happen in the future. But moving on to our next story. Last Sunday, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex opened up about their past and current struggles as members of the royal family in an intense exclusive interview with Oprah Winfrey. This interview comes 1 year after the royal couple announced they will be stepping back as senior royals, preferring to provide philanthropic aid on their own behalf as they split their time between the UK and North America. Here's CNN reporter Daryl Forges with more on how Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's claims have incited an official statement from the Queen.
The royal palace breaking its silence after this weekend's strong accusations made by Prince Harry and his wife Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. Buckingham Palace releasing a statement saying in part, quotes, "The whole family is saddened to learn the full extent of how challenging the last few years have been for Harry and Meghan." The royal family receiving backlash after the couple made a number of bombshell claims, one of which dealt with an unnamed person in the family who shared concerns over their son's complexion when Meghan was pregnant.
And also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
There is a conversation. Hold up.
There's
Stop
several
right now.
there are several conversations.
There's a
about
conversation with you,
with Harry.
The royal family also addressing that issue in their statement, saying, quote, "The issues raised, particularly that of race, are concerning. While some recollections may vary, they are taken very seriously and will be addressed by the family privately. Harry, Meghan, and Archie will always be much-loved family members." Meghan also spoke on her emotional battle with depression and that she contemplated suicide.
I just didn't want to be alive anymore. And that was a very clear and real and frightening, constant thought.
The couple says they were cut off financially from the royal family, and Prince Harry says his father, Prince Charles, briefly stopped taking his calls.
I feel really let down because he's been through something similar. He knows what pain feels like, and Archie's his grandson.
I'm Daryl Forges reporting.
So guys, this is big news. And although I don't really follow the activities of the royal family, I think if these accusations are true, people may stop seeing the royal family with rose-tinted glasses. So notably, Meghan Markle accused the family of racism and not providing support when she had thoughts of suicide. So according to CBS News, she said, quote, "In the months when I was pregnant, we had in tandem the conversation that he won't be given security, how he's not going to be given a title, and also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born." She also said she had suicidal thoughts, but she didn't receive help. So what are your thoughts on this? What does this interview tell us about the royal family?
As much as I'd like to say that I am surprised, I don't know if I really am. Even though the royal family isn't as political as they used to be, they're such big public figures in the UK. So to hear that they said these things and treated, their own family members and Meghan like this, it's very upsetting. One of the biggest things that I found that was odd is that in the palace's statement, when the workers at the palace claimed that Meghan was bullying them, they said that they were going to investigate it and look into it more. But now that Meghan and Harry are speaking out, the Queen said that they won't be investigating it and they're going to be dealing with it privately. Now, it would definitely be interesting to be a fly on the wall right now in the palace, seeing how the royal family is reacting to this interview. And it's also interesting to see how the UK and US tabloids are, reacting to the interview. They were definitely on opposite ends. The US was really backing Meghan and Harry, while the UK was more defending the royal family. Anyway, Jorge, I was wondering, what do you think? Could this end up being the downfall of the Windsors?
That's a great question, Brie. And I do believe that there's going to be a decrease in their public image, a positive image from the royal family. I think that now that we have these kind of interviews and now they're in public and we know the difference between the tabloids between the US and Britain, there's such an impact in our society. And what I do believe is that there's a lot of pressure, social pressure that is going to be incorporated to the royal family. Now, Queen Elizabeth just saying that it was an important topic, but she didn't lean positive or negative. She didn't lean if they're going to help this couple or if they're just going to be like, okay, whatever, let's just continue. These kinds of topics, they are very, very important when it comes about our society and how we look to diversity and the integrity, not only for this couple, but for any person.
Yeah, Jorge, I actually agree with you on that. This negative image, however, in my opinion, it's amplified by the British media primarily. When you take a look at the headlines, the various tabloid headlines, like they would say these atrocious quotes saying, quote, Kate made me cry, quote, I wanted to kill myself, or quote, Megxile. These are on the front pages of these tabloids, and the tabloids are so popular in the UK compared to the US, where here they're not necessarily praised as much. Basically, the media in the UK is placing this sense of fear upon the royal family. They've always been scrutinized by the media for ages, and it's causing fear for their family's safety. We've seen racial abuse in the UK press towards Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. They're making false lies. It's hurting their reputation. It's detrimental to Meghan's mental health. And I see this as history repeating itself. Meghan's situation is kind of like Princess Diana's situation. We know that in the 90s, Princess Diana divorced Charles, which was heavily criticized in the media, and it ultimately tragically led to her death, which was caused by the paparazzi. So we'll have to see what happens, but it's a negative image that's only going to explode. Moving on to some more national news, our country is reminded again of the tragic incident that led to George Floyd's death as jury section begins in former officer Derek Chauvin's trial. Chauvin was the police officer who physically detained and strangled Floyd as he pleaded for his life. He has pleaded not guilty to second-degree unintentional murder and second-degree manslaughter charges. A third-degree murder charge has also been reinstated by a Hennepin County judge, to which Chauvin also pleads not guilty. However, if there are no delays, the jury selection should take about 3 weeks, allowing opening statements to begin by March 29th. As the trial date approaches, the Hennepin County Government Center has been barricaded and other safety measures have been taken in suspicion of pain and trauma that this trial might ensue. So as of this morning, CNN's Eric Levinson reported that the judge in Hennepin County has reinstated the third-degree murder charge. So that gives the court 3 options on how to potentially convict Chauvin and the other 3 officers. The second-degree unintentional murder could be punishable for up to 40 years. The newly reinstated third-degree murder, that's up to 25 years potentially. And the second-degree manslaughter, that's up to 10 years. However, according to a poll from USA Today, hope is depleting. According to that poll, 54% of Black Americans said that race relations have worsened. 64% of Black Americans called George Floyd's death a murder, while 28% of white Americans called it as well. Everyone, I think this trial is a major trial for a call of justice. Although justice has been examined for the whole year through the Black Lives Matter protests and all the campaigns, including Campaign Zero, which is a campaign that champions police reform. Overall, if Chauvin and the 3 officers are found not guilty, I'm going to have to say that we're going to have to prepare for some nationwide protests once again, and chaos might ensue. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Tristan, I agree with you. So unfortunately, it seems like the Black Lives Matter movement has slowed down since June. And in fact, according to USA Today, 60% of people in June believe that Floyd was murdered, compared to only 36% now. And so because of these statistics, I don't really know how much this trial will affect the Black Lives Matter months from now. But I do think if he isn't convicted, regardless of whether or not there will be a lot of change in the future, I think it's possible there will be a big uproar, that there will be protests. But I'm curious about how the outcome will affect its immediate surroundings, affect the movement right now.
Yeah, this is definitely a trial that people will be watching and it's going to be remembered. And I understand why they're going to be boarding up the walls of the government center, because if it does not end in the way that people are going to like, then they are going to be outraged. And it's completely understandable. I do like that there are a few changes that are in the process of being made to bring justice for Black Americans. I mean, just last week, the House passed the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, which would ban chokeholds and change legal protections that shield officers from prosecution, which is huge. Although USA Today states that critics are complaining that changes have been too slow and, quote, Black activists said that they plan to hold Biden to his campaign promises while keeping the pressure on state and local governments to change a system they feel is inherently biased against them, end quote. You know, this is so important because even though Biden is elected, people are still continuing to push him and Harris to make changes and follow through with their promises that they made during their campaign. I don't know if I would say it's too slow per se, because it hasn't even been 2 months yet, but I think that this definitely shows that they are trying to follow through. And I really hope that we will see more and more changes in the future that are going to help America as a whole.
I'll be completely honest. We spoke about data, we spoke about percentages, but I'm going to speak about sentiments. I'm completely angry with these kind of situations. There's a lot of social injustice in our country today. And sadly, there is not a lot of hope when it comes about legislation, or at least the kind of propaganda or the kind of speech that the Biden administration is trying to do. Yes, there's a lot of speech talking about hope, but we need changes today. And whenever I see delays in these kind of trials, I can't imagine the Black community feeling about all of this situation. It's been more than 8 months since George Floyd's death, and there's no changes. And I don't see a positive sentiment of the Black community or any kind of vulnerable communities today. That's the same thing with Latinos, with any kind of people who they think that they're not part of our country, but we are all Americans and we all deserve justice. So hopefully we can see a fair trial and see that people that they need to be convicted, not only by their race, but by their crimes and their acts. So we really need a change here. But well, guys, talking about more positive news, happy Women's History Month, Titans. All month long, we are highlighting women who have been continuing to make a great impact in our society. This week, we'll be discussing Malala Yousafzai's recent production deal with Apple TV+. Malala, the youngest Nobel Peace Prize laureate at mere age of 17, has inspired the world with her story as a young political and educational feminist activist. Her production company, Extracurricular, will be partnering with Apple TV Plus in a multi-year deal, creating a wide range of content, including documentaries and even children's programming that seeks to emphasize the importance of representation of women and all different races. Guys, I'm so happy for this news. And first of all, because of the great impact that Malala has had since she was super young, 17 years old, and winning already a Nobel Peace Prize, I only can talk about her present today. And it's the positive influence that she's having on the younger women. So hopefully we can have great productions from this and we can see more social activists since they are super young. I see great generations coming up.
That's right, Jorge. I think Malala's deal with Apple TV Plus is an opportunity to grace. I read back in middle school when her book, I Am Malala, dropped in 2013, I realized how her story and the fight in Pakistan, how children are being suppressed and how children can't receive education. Women are being attacked in Pakistan. Her story has inspired so many around the world, which is why she won that Nobel Peace Prize in the first place and at age 17. And with her opportunity to be able to make documentaries and share stories about her and other women's life in Pakistan through Apple TV, this is a platform that will empower many women and children across the globe.
It's crazy that she's only 23 and yet doing amazing things. I'm also excited to see how she intends to face these issues of race and of being a woman in this society, and how she wants to face topics such as discrimination and unfair pay compared to her male counterparts. So Malala, thank you so much for always going above and beyond to make change in this world.
Yeah, I've loved following along and listening to Malala. She's such an inspiration, and being so close into the same age as we are, you know, I think it makes it all that much better, because she's proof that it doesn't matter how old you are, you can make a difference if you choose to put your mind and your heart into it. And I'm really excited to see what she creates for Apple TV, and I think it's going to be very inspiring, and we're all going to really pay attention.
And with that, that's all the time we have today on the Report Roundtable Discussion. Have a safe week, everyone, and stay tuned for more news, views, and info to go. I'm Jorge Flores.
I'm Bree Islick.
I'm Tristan Magluno.
And I'm Amanda Mendoza. As always, stay fresh, Fullerton.